Hi everyone, I'm Jamie,
I'm Kate.
and we're here to discuss Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance.
I didn't have all my notes. Oops, all my notes in there. Look at all this.
Oh, yours is a hardback.
I got all of these things to talk about.
It's not a super long book, but it's got a lot of stuff in it.
Well, it's just one of those ones that are just either really interesting bits of information or you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
With what happens or whatever.
The life is so different from our life.
So I guess first impressions are...
I went into it thinking that it was going to be, because I knew there was a movie, like it was going to be more...
narrative?
Is that how you call it? I don't know, but he was telling the story the whole time. Like it was... And it wasn't like a story, it was more just him talking about instances or, you know what I mean? But it went through time. But, so that was fine. It was super easy to read. It's super relatable to read. Like it was, you could just read it and read it and read it.
Right. That's what I wrote in our little journal was his writing is approachable and he seems so humble. Like the introduction, you're like, he just comes across like, I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not from privilege kind of thing. You know?
Right. You can tell from the beginning that his life was not anything glamorous.
I'm trying to think of that word. It's not pretentious. It's not, because sometimes I feel like some politicians are just so, like the way they talk is so way over my head. And it just...
Because they're so highly educated and they've been bred that way almost, whereas he is completely opposite of that, where he came from.
And I guess my overall, because we can talk about this as we talk through it, but my overall impression was just, this is the American dream. That's coming from nothing, rags to riches kind of thing, even though it's more like coming from nothing and becoming successful.
But by hard work and by, getting out of that situation, making better for yourself. He didn't like have this big break where someone gave him money or someone, other than, he went to the military and that's what got him kind of set off. So it's just,
It was just his family.
Yep.
So.
Well, I was looking, because it's called Hillbilly Elegy. I was like, what does elegy mean?
I never looked that up.
And it says, a poem of serious reflection, typically a lament for the dead.
Interesting.
So, just serious reflection about hillbillies, which was his life. Like, that was what they called the people of that, his particular,
area.
Part of the country. Yeah.
Appalachia.
Yeah, Appalachian Mountain.
Which I didn't realize it's so big of an area. I mean, I always think of it like, I don't know, like North Carolina and that, but he talks about how it comes from all the way from this, like Alabama or something.
The region,
all the way down,
all the way up to Ohio. Almost to Ohio. Yeah. Kentucky, though, was primarily where he grew up, and then Ohio.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can maybe if we go chapter by chapter, since I have so many things, and maybe that will help you too. We can be in sync with it. I just, there's so much language.
Gosh, the F word is rampant.
And like,
that's the one word that I was like, oh gosh, like, and you like say it in your head, and I'm like, I don't want to say it, but it's like it can't. Sometimes you like need to say it because it makes it's emphatically there for a reason, but it's just just the way they talked. I mean, they weren't.
Everything was so like violent. Like their words were violent, and their physical was violent, and their thoughts were violent. Like everything was so
just nothing calm about it, just the way they were. But so much, it's just weird to have that, and then there's so much love and so much
loyalty.
But it's just the way they were. Just the culture.
And there's that one time when they're talking about how as soon as someone left the house, they were no longer under that loyalty as far as like what happens in the house is only for the people that are in the house. Even if you just moved out of the house like a week ago, you're no longer privy to the secrets of the people in the house. It's just wild.
Just these things that they
I can't, like some of these quotes that I've marked, I can't even say it. It's just...
Yeah. Because of the grandma, I mean, she had a mouth,
Well, there's somebody drops off supplies and the uncle is like, just yelling at the like for no reason.
It's like, I think it was just like how they talked. It wasn't even always necessarily negative.
Yeah.
It was just they called each other, these names because that's just the way, it wasn't even always a negative thing.
Yeah.
It was just the way they talked.
Yeah.
Because they're just, not as highly educated and just... That's what they know. Like, they grew up with that, and so they just kept saying the same things their parents did.
Didn't know any different.
Right, exactly.
then is this the part where they talk about, oh, right, Mama had nearly killed a man, that story about her, like, taking a chainsaw to somebody or something.
It's like when you disrespected their other people, like someone's mom or someone, like family, they would kill for that. Yeah. That loyalty is super strong.
Right.
I think stronger than any other culture that I've ever known.
Yes.
That you would actually kill just for a remark or something. It's not like that person threatened, but even just a remark about them or something disrespectful.
Well, it was kind of like if someone disrespected, even maybe he had a difficult time with his mom, and he didn't always love everyone in his family. Like he didn't always respect them. Yeah. But if someone said something against them,
even his mom, who he could have said it was a rough time, and he didn't always respect her. But if someone said something against her, that would set him off. Yeah. It's crazy. It's just that,
There's a quote that I can't remember who's saying this. I think it was Mama. Some like when they were talking about stealing bikes from her front porch, and she said, I think it's her. She says, "There's nothing lower than the poor stealing from the poor. It's hard enough as it is. We sure as hell don't need to make it even harder on each other." So it's like, I mean, that's bad when you're stealing from other people that are in the same situation as you.
Yeah.
It's hard enough as it is.
Right. Exactly what she said,
Hillbilly justice.
Yeah. Their way of...
This video is probably going to be a little bit more slow.
Choppy.
Sorry
about
friends,
that.
because there's so many quotes and stuff I want to talk about, and I'm probably not going to edit this because
it's funny how he talked about where he grew up. So he was in the Kentucky was where like his grandparents were from, and his mom, and then they moved to get a better life to Ohio, Middletown, Ohio. It's just funny how he kind of talked about that, like it's just called Middletown, Ohio. Like it didn't have any grandeur about it. It was kind of just in the middle of everything, like
average,
just a
Main Street, USA.
Yeah.
And then it's also said just down the road was Centerville or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
I just thought that was funny. I'd never heard of either of those places, but just funny how it,
Middle Tucky.
Yeah, Middle Tucky. Yeah, as the kids we diversely call it, Middle Tucky.
So mine's hardback and yours is not.
I know.
But the pages are the same.
It looks like it. Well, kind of. Yeah, it does look like they're the same. Yeah.
Oh, the Mountain Dew mouth.
Oh my gosh,
hearing about that.
I remember that on the news that was in 2009, so I was an adult. I remember that, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And so every time my kids would say something about Mountain Dew, I'm like, heck to the no, you're never drinking Mountain Dew. But I remember like seeing the dentists go in there, and it was just horrible.
It makes me want to go look it up.
Yeah,
online.
like they had given their kids, like, since in the bottle, giving them Mountain Dew. Like, our brother, we used to ask for pop in his baba. I mean, like, back in the 670s. That's crazy.
I marked a line where she talks about that.
Yeah.
9 months old or something.
Yeah, see? That was our brother. 10 years older than me. So, yeah, isn't that crazy? But I still remember that. So I like noted that. I was like, I remember that episode. I remember that documentary thing.
I want to look that up.
Because I was really into the documentaries, always have been, so.
That's all I had for the first chapter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you...
I think that, I don't think, I put page 19. I think this might have also been in the truth is hard, and the hardest truths for Hill people are the ones they must tell about themselves. It's like...
They didn't want to tell the
truth about themselves. They don't
want
to, yeah. They talk about all the other people, and they say all this, but it's like they don't ever want to admit that there's crap in there, too.
Well, it seemed like I'd seen some comments about this book and how they were like, that's not what it's like, or you're making it sound different or something. And he says that in the book. So it's kind of interesting that people were saying that.
But I mean, he took it, this was his experience. Yeah. So it's,
you can't say it's wrong.
Talked to his family members and made sure that they were okay with him saying things. And
Did it say that? Because I wondered, because he's like shares some really intense stuff.
Yeah. And I think, I felt like in the beginning, he kind of introed that where he had talked to some family members, or he said things. Sometimes he would say it a little bit differently than they said it, but it was like it was agreed that that was whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't remember it the same.
Yeah. But he put how he remembered it because this was obviously his book. Yeah.
And it also said something like this is it's a memoir, but he was only like 30 or something when he wrote it, which is interesting. But it is a lot about his family in the past, not hit him directly. Like
right, his grandparents.
Yeah.
He talked about how they how they came to move up there and them having children, and
Right.
which was his mom and then him. Yeah, but he had a hell of a lot of life before 30.
Yeah.
More than most of us.
Well, even before he
life
graduated high
experiences.
school.
Yeah.
I mean,
life experiences, negative life experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and his grandparents moved there because they were pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
But she was only, what, 14?
They were young.
Really young.
Yeah.
He was 17.
Yeah.
And then they lost that baby, which is like, he thinks if the
Like, what
trajectory of
would've
their
happened?
life would have
Mhm.
changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Crazy.
that's true for all of us.
Mhm,
Like, you make
mhm.
one decision or one thing happens
Yeah.
and something.
It could have changed everything, but yeah. The Lord uses all the things.
Oh, she'd given birth to and buried a child before she could legally drive a car.
Yeah. So before she was 16.
It's funny how that was the next thing.
Yeah, that's wild. Talks about all the words that hillbillies use, all the different,
Terms.
minnows, minners, crayfish, crawdads.
But we say crawdads too.
Yeah, hollow. I mean, I feel like there's hillbillies in like the south of Missouri,
Oh,
like where
yeah.
Grandma grew up, like kind of hill, and even where my dad had a mamaw and a papaw, and he's called papaw, so it's like they still kind of hillbilly-ish.
Right, and I feel like
southern Missouri.
a lot of this stuff reminds me of people I know.
Yeah.
Um,
Not quite maybe to the
it's
extreme,
not the extreme, but
yeah.
just like it's almost like what he would be like in his own home.
Yeah.
JD Vance, like
Yeah.
he's diluted. It's diluted a little bit from
Mhm.
his parent.
Yeah, true, but he still carries that. Yeah.
Because at the end he curses and stuff, and you think,
Yes. Like, dude, now that he's our vice president, I'm like, what's this gonna look
Shame
like? Yeah. I'm sure.
I think a lot of things have changed though since he wrote this. Because I read
Yeah.
something also about.
I mean, he's
different
become a
things.
senator. Yeah, he was just working in law then, so it's totally.
Yeah, he really
Who would have thought when he wrote this? I wonder what he thought. Because he talks about government in
Yes.
here, that he would ever be. He talks about Trump, that he would ever be
A vice
vice
president.
president.
And
I mean,
could potentially be a president.
Because of his views, though, it's like he really did. Yeah, he cares. So yeah, you all need to read this book.
Yeah,
especially
very
since he's
interesting.
our vice president elect. Like, it would just give you a good glance into his life.
I have page 59. Do you have something?
Whoa,
else
you're
on that?
way going
Sorry.
fast now. Yeah, no, that's fine.
I just didn't have anything until this one.
Yeah, that's good.
There's this quote where he says, "In my immature brain, I didn't understand the difference between intelligence and knowledge, and I had to look up the difference just to see what
What
it actually meant.
because they feel like they mean the same thing. But intelligence is just like what
using
you
knowledge.
have.
is
Knowledge
what it said,
is what
basically.
you put in, right?
Being knowledgeable, you know things, but
Mhm.
being intelligent is using your knowledge to like do something with it. That's kind of the
that
way I
makes
understood
sense.
it.
Yeah, you can have knowledge, but you may not use it the correct way or use it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was an interesting concept for me. I wanted to like marinate in that a little
Mhm,
bit. Just
mhm.
and how he learns multiplication. He like wants to know more math, and so his papa teaches him.
Yeah, it's cute. Yeah.
I have
I
a
like
kid
that.
like that right now. I have one
It's-
kid who detests math. The other one is now interested in learning more upper level, like further up than what
Yes.
she's studying.
Which is good. Once you know good at math, I'm good at math
Yeah.
now more than I was as a kid. Now I'm like, oh, it's kind of fun to do it
Yes,
because you know
yes.
what you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
If you just know what you're doing, it is a lot more enjoyable.
Well,
But
for
when you
me,
don't-
I think we've talked about this before. For me, with math, if I would have learned it later when I was my brain
Me
was really
too,
ready,
me too,
I probably
yeah.
would have done better.
Me too.
But it was like it was pushed too soon for me.
And then you just
personally.
couldn't ever master it before you had
Yes.
to keep going, which is what I like about homeschool. Is you can master it before you
Right.
keep going.
And that's what we've done. We've backed up.
Yeah. Because multiplication especially is so critical.
Yeah.
If I hadn't to learn that, I feel like I wouldn't have been. Yeah. It's the one thing I was really good at.
Yeah, the memorizing facts.
Yes. But yeah. We digress.
Yeah. Good chat.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I would have made like notes next to my tags because now I don't know. I think it was it Mama again. Yeah, when he gets in a fight or something, he doesn't know whether he should fight somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, honey, you have to fight even when you're not defending yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the right thing to do. Tomorrow you need to stand up for that boy, and if you have to stand up for yourself, then do that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then she like teaches him how to hit somebody.
people. Yeah. It's like it was for a good, like to stand up for someone else. Like it was the
Because they did say
nice,
don't
like stand up for people.
Finish a fight, but don't start a fight.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
Defend yourself. Obviously, if someone's coming at you, well, you're gonna push them away or something. But another kid needed someone to stand up for him.
Yeah,
which is nice.
I wanted to kind of think more about that. Sometimes fighting, even when you're not defending yourself. I mean, he was defending somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Stand up for somebody else.
Stand up for somebody else. Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with fist fighting, but even with your words, if you're arguing.
Or just getting in between.
Yes, and just saying,
somebody.
You stop this. Yeah.
Or getting help or whatever.
Right, exactly.
It said something like that was the last fist fight I ever had. But then later he hits that guy in the stomach anyway.
Yeah.
One of the many men that his mother had.
Maybe this fist fight was more of a back and forth, and this was he just hit him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His grandparents. So I did write that after his papa died. So his grandparents had played such a huge role in his life, both of them. But then when his grandparents died, he felt like it kind of altered the family a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. Yeah,
for worse or for better?
It says that's a little bit what he's down here, but I was just thinking that was coming up when he was.
Well, they don't have the great matriarch. I mean, she was she kept the family together.
Yeah.
Then he says that the other aunt was kind of replaced her as the matriarch and kind of.
There was always somebody that kept
or something.
Which is why that's when he kept the family in check or whatever. But he said before his death, I had settled into the chaotic but happy routine of splitting time between moms and mama's. Boyfriends came and went. Mom had good days and bad days. Mama's life had been a constant struggle. It's like he kind of felt like without Papa to help her, that burden seemed twice as heavy. So he kind of felt like, I think JD kind of felt like, well, if I keep going over there, then I'm going to be a burden on her. And now she doesn't have him. And, just kind of changed the way that felt.
Right.
So instead of retreating to Mama's house or calling her every time problems arose with Mom, he relied on his sister and himself. His sister was older than him.
Mm-hmm. And really was like more of a mother. I mean, between her and Mama.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mama continued being like a grandma. I mean, she was motherly, but like she had that wisdom kind of and just like imparted all this knowledge, whereas his sister like took care of his needs like a mother would do.
Right. Nurtured him in that different way. Yeah. He definitely always had motherly figures. He's never really had a father figure.
Like Papa was helpful, but
after Papa, I feel like he didn't have a, solid father figure.
I was thankful. He mentioned that like none of these men that were his mother's men were never like abusive,
right?
And that's incredible.
Yeah.
For that area, the way those people were, and so many men, like so many that nobody ever was seriously.
Just not great for the family. Yeah, just in and out so much of his life, so many of them.
Right.
Because his mom just couldn't, that's just what she wanted. She kept running to that or her addiction,
And their faith like weaves in and out throughout.
It definitely does, yeah.
I think this is the time where, he gets in the car with his mom and she goes crazy and like drives off the road or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't repeat this whole quote, but she's.
Oh.
Is this?
We're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but who is that that's saying that?
Mama said about this incident. The only thing Mama said about the incident was,
"We're fine, GD. Don't you know Jesus rides in the car with me?"
The theology she taught was unsophisticated, but it provided a message I needed to hear.
Right.
Like they always had that in their mind. I had to take care of my family because Christian duty demanded it. Yeah. I should never despair, for God had a plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Then right after that, he says this parable that Mama often told about, which I'd heard before and I didn't have it written down.
Okay.
About the man's house is flooding and somebody comes by and wants to rescue him and he's like, no, God will take care of me. And then somebody else comes and he says no, and then a third he's on the roof in a helicopter and he's like, no, God will take care of me.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And God's like, you said you would help me, and he's like, well, I sent you a car and I sent you a boat and I sent you your death is your fault.
Right.
I just
like all those things were God sending you things. It just wasn't God himself saying, here is those people.
Wasn't as you expected.
Right.
Which he does all the time.
Yeah.
Does things that you
that's
don't
why
expect.
we're here. He uses us to do those kind of things. Yeah.
So I like that was written in there. I wish that he would have talked more later about his biological dad.
Yeah, he
spends time
with him. Yeah.
But then at the end, I wanted to see, like, was he
Did
still
they ever
in
have a
touch?
connection?
Or
Yeah. I wonder about that too.
I'm sure we can find that.
Yeah.
There's just this whole section, and I don't about just their religion and.
Yeah, his dad kind of took on his faith, and he remarried and had more children, and kind of became a different person.
Right.
And they kind of had a relationship there after a while, but then that went away again.
It didn't ever seem like anything bad happened. He just didn't feel like he fit with the way that they were. They were more devout and more conservative, maybe. I don't know what the right word is.
He said he couldn't listen to his kind of music, or he felt just always judged, or just felt weird. Yeah.
Which I can understand that.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's this quote that I have marked here. Regular church attendees commit fewer crimes, are in better health, live longer, make more money, drop out of high school less frequently, and finish college more frequently than those who don't attend church at all. And then this MIT economist, Jonathan Gruber, even found that the relationship was causal.
Causal, like
causal.
Yeah.
It's not just that people who happen to live successful lives also go to church. It's that church seems to promote good habits.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
When you're part of a community that's encouraging you and doing all, you're going to be like, okay, and then the Lord obviously uses that.
Right.
But even if it's the church itself that gets you started,
that they have a part in it.
Yeah.
Oh, here, yeah. He lived the stereotype of a culturally conservative Protestant with Southern roots. His dad. Bio dad. It's so weird because, like, that one guy, like, adopts him, and then he's not even in the picture very long, and I'm just like, this poor child.
And then the dad, mom gets married real quick again without even knowing the guy when she's with another guy. It's so sad.
Wild.
She just could not find what she needed. She was looking for it in men that just were not.
Well, and then he said there were a few that were, like, good guys. There was one. Yeah. I can't remember the name.
Matt, I feel like was one. And because Ken was the one she married that the kids were weird to him, and that was just a weird situation.
But that's probably hard at anywhere that you just have a mixed family like that. But true. Then it just seems like she would do something to mess it up. Like
she couldn't. Yeah, I think she probably never felt like she could be loved correctly because she was a mess. Yeah. So she just like made it
couldn't
bad.
accept a good person. Yeah. Good,
Exactly. It's tough.
There's this whole part about parenting, which is interesting because he wrote this before he had children. This is page 104. I don't know. I marked it. To this day, being able to take advantage of someone is the measure in my mind of having a parent. And does he mean in that like kids are always like taking advantage of their parents? Is that what that's meaning?
Take advantage, but the way he has it in quotes doesn't seem
it's
such
not
a
negative.
Yeah.
But you are.
I mean you have to. They have to because they don't know how to do anything else. Yeah. Yeah.
We were conditioned to feel that we couldn't really depend on people, but even as children, asking someone for a meal or for help with a broken down automobile was a luxury that we couldn't indulge in too much, lest we fully tap the reservoir of goodwill serving as the safety valve in our lives. Mama and Papa did everything they could to fight that instinct. Oh, I just have to finish it out. On our rare trips to a nice restaurant, they would interrogate me about what I truly wanted until I'd confess, yes, I did want the steak. And then they'd order it for me over my protests. No matter how imposing, no figure could erase that feeling entirely. And then he says Papa would have been his deal, but then he was gone. It's just like they couldn't, I have people that I know just like can't accept. They just have a really hard time accepting help. Yeah. Asking for it and accepting it. Yeah. Just like, no, I can do this.
You don't want to be a burden. Don't want to be a burden to people. It's the worst feeling. Well, that to be a burden. That's how I feel. I have a hard time asking for help in certain things. I've gotten a lot better, but it is hard.
It's just certain things are harder. People. Yeah. But you're always so good to help.
Yeah, I do try to help.
Best sister ever.
But that's different than like putting the burden. Put all the burdens on me, but I don't want to put it on you. I know. You know what I mean? But it's not a burden. It's not.
I wasn't referring to you, by the way.
No, I just
when I said that. I also just think in general, as a country, we probably have a hard time with that because everybody has this pride, like I can do it myself.
Whereas other countries and cultures, they just they live together and they do all for each other
Right.
because that's just part of it where we just don't do that.
Yeah.
Move out of your parents' house. Nope, I got it. I can do this. I don't need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I hate to say that it takes a village mentality, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does.
But families
really-
and communities.
I mean, he had that. I mean, it took his
all
whole
these
family
people,
to
yeah, aunts and uncles, all these people were always cheering for him and there for him. Yeah, I don't think he would have made it out of there if it hadn't been for that.
It would have been a lot.
Because if it was just
harder.
his mom and his sister and them, I think it would have been a lot different.
Yes. Oh, something about. Oh, the funeral.
Papa's funeral.
Papa and Mama take him to a funeral for someone else. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
And they think they lose him because he's fallen asleep in the pew.
Yes.
In the chair.
Yes.
And they like block the exits and are like threatening people.
Yeah. Yeah, like with guns. Like they got out a gun and
yes.
whatever, and they were manning the exits, checking every car. Yeah.
I mean, I get that.
The
I've
uncle
had
was
that
like,
experience.
they're asleep. Yeah.
Where you're just, where are my kids? Where's my kid?
Yeah. But then you really see them like, okay, like, yeah.
They're not messing around.
No. Yeah.
Okay, and then right after that, he's talking about his papa being, like, working on cars.
Mm-hmm.
And, my husband is a mechanic.
Yeah.
And they just, papa would just curse word. I hate this piece of And
who made this thing?
like, he's so mad. I just listened to him not knowing a single person was around, and he just kept carrying on and complaining. And then he said, I'll just go ask somebody else or something. Oh, the uncle offers to take it to a shop and get it fixed. And, Papa's like, what? Why? I love fixing cars.
But I just want to complain and lament how I hate this type of car, or why is it made this way? Yeah.
But Steven, he'll be out there and he will do the same thing. He'll be so mad at something, throwing a fit about it because it's not working.
Yeah. But he loves it.
But he loves it. And he'll say, all mechanics do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. But I really...
I think it's true.
I need to ask my
They all
friend
get
that's
frustrated.
coming to visit, who's a mechanic. I need to ask him if that's...
Part of their love-hate relationship, which I like, it's almost frustrating, so frustrating that I'm going to get to the bottom of it. So it makes it more of a challenge. So they like it more because they're getting more out of it. The thrill of it. Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
And if you ask Steven if he has a favorite, what brand should I buy of car? Like, which one is the best?
Yeah.
They're all junk.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
They're all junk, so just buy something. And we'll figure out how to fix it later.
Some are easier to work on than others.
Yeah, I do think that. Foreign cars are probably a little trickier. Yeah.
In some ways, it's but we have Fords, and some things will be way down in there where you're like, why did you put that thing that needs to be replaced way down?
Yeah. Anyway. They need better consultants who build these cars.
The engineers are.
Yeah.
Cray.
Yeah. That's why we need mechanics to help us. So that's why they're getting paid to do that.
Get paid the big bucks.
Exactly.
I don't know why I have this marked about Ken.
Ken, another man. He was the one that she married.
That had the kids.
Yeah.
And he was born in Korea but was raised by Americans.
Yeah.
Oh, she'd agreed to marry him a week later. She told me on a Thursday. On Saturday, we moved into Ken's house. His home was my 4th in 2 years.
And he didn't even know Ken or the kids. It was like, here we go, marry this guy, we're moving in.
And didn't she leave him pretty abruptly and went right to someone else, or was that? I don't know. That happened a lot. So
yeah.
I
I know. Keep track of all the dudes. Sorry about that, lady. And he had really rough, he was about to fail out of school. He had a rough time in high school, and all of this back and forth messed him up for his in school.
Well, and he writes about it, and that it's very typical of kids that have hard, trauma at home or whatever, just don't do well.
Well, no wonder. I mean, I can't blame them.
I guess a teacher at school said, they want us to be shepherds to these kids, but no one wants to talk about the fact that many of them are raised by wolves.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in a school where you felt like the parents were not involved and they wanted the teacher to be the disciplinarian and the nurturer and everything, and that's just not...
I can't do it
That's
all.
way too hard because there's so many kids that need that, especially I could assume in these kind of communities, and the teacher just can't do all of that. They don't have the capacity.
They can't teach and...
Right. So therefore, if I'm nurturing them all day or trying to just love them, I can't teach them math and science and,
Right.
So what do you want me to do? Yeah.
Which really,
You want to
frankly,
love them,
the
but you
nurturing
can't.
is like really more important. I mean,
Yeah, it's true.
I don't
They
know.
can't really learn if they don't have that first to feel like safe
Yeah.
and comfortable and know that they're, loved. And then their mind can be, okay, now I can,
well, a lot of homeschool circles talk about just building relationships with your kids is like paramount.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff will come. And
Yes.
will, but
Yes,
just
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. 136. Following you along here. Let's see. My notes here.
just this part was about his mom just wanting. She equated money with affection. Like she'd give him money or buy him stuff, and they talked about that when they talked about Christmas time. How families would just buy, like, they would buy more than, well, who was it? His sister or his aunt? His Aunt Wee, maybe, that had the little kids, and just saw what she was buying for them for Christmas, and he's like, this is like nothing. But it's just all of the people he knew would just go crazy, like wanting to have the best things. And
because they didn't have that or whatever. Or that was their love language, maybe, was to give. They thought, oh, they'll love me because I'm giving them things.
So they'd have all these credit cards and couldn't afford any of the stuff they were.
Right. Yeah, I'm getting close to 142. I had something, so.
Oh, this just made me laugh because Mama says, have you finished the work for that teacher, that Selby teacher? No, not yet. And she's like, well, you better start. I didn't spend every penny I had on that little computer so you could around all day, around.
Yeah.
Because he needs a graphing calculator.
Yeah,
and lots of people have
expensive.
talked about this, like back in the day, it was like you put that under lock and key because it was so expensive.
Yes. So like $180, I think.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a calculator.
Yeah.
Fancy one, though, I know.
So it's like she was willing to spend every penny to get it for him, but then she like uses it against him, kind of like.
Yeah. I wonder how they turn the tables.
So funny.
So I had on 142 that same chapter. It just talked about Mama could spew venom like a Marine Corps drill instructor, but what she saw in our community didn't just make her mad, it broke her heart. So behind the drugs and the fighting matches and the financial struggles, these were people with serious problems and they were hurting. Our neighbors had a kind of desperate sadness in their lives. And Mama appreciated that. I think she wanted to be helpful. She had escaped the poverty of the hills, but the poverty, emotional, if not financial, had followed her.
Oh, yeah. Emotional poverty.
Yeah. So that was interesting. You have 145? You do have what? Yeah, what did you have over there?
Well, my note says,
I have one too.
I actually wrote a note. Does he feel bad about telling the world his secrets? I don't know what it is he's talking about on there, but I was thinking, he just talks about random people, and he kind of, sometimes it's like people could be offended by what this guy just talked about me, and I didn't say that I was okay with you,
Or even the people that lived in this town, Middletown, could be like,
that's
wow,
what
you wrote this whole book about us, and
I just wondered if that
But
was ever
it shines a light on, even though we're like, wow, but it shines a light on, like, these people need, they need help in some cases. Government can help in certain ways, or maybe not, or just, I wrote on page 145, it said, our elegy is a sociological one, yes, but it is also about psychology and community and culture and faith. Our elegy, our reflection, our lament is sociological. Yeah, interesting.
It's all that stuff together. What is this? Oh, he finally, this is after he's been to the Marines.
Yeah.
And he comes back and like buys everybody stuff. And to laugh and joke with the people I loved most as they scarfed down the meal that I'd provided gave me a feeling of joy and accomplishment that words can't possibly describe. he drives there, he spends that, he buys them, he goes, well, it was Wendy's, but still I bought for everybody.
Exactly. I felt like such a man, a real grown up.
Yeah. And I don't know why he hesitated to why people would have said that he wasn't going to make it in the Marines, because I'm like, you have lived with
people
high
yelling at
expectations,
you, being drilled into you, and a verbal abuse kind of to a degree. So the Marines would be not
that part of it wouldn't be hard. Yeah. Maybe he wasn't raised to take care of.
But that's what the Marines helped him with. I think they made sure his bed was made, and they even he talked about after, they went to the bank with him and made sure he did right with his money and taught him how to write checks and how to pay bills. I didn't know that about that.
I didn't either.
About the military. That's really, really good.
And that one guy went with him when he went to buy the car and was like, no, you're not going to do the,
They just help you make wise decisions, which is huge. Especially for someone like him who had no idea what the world was like, I felt like, outside of his little town.
And was willing to be taught the right things to do.
Yeah. That's really cool.
This part when Mama's lung has collapsed and she's in a coma in the hospital.
Yeah.
And he gets on the road, and in West Virginia, a police officer pulls him over for going 94. And when he says why he's in such a hurry, and he told me that the highway was clear of speed traps for the next 70 miles, after which I'd cross into Ohio, and that I should go as fast as I wanted until then. I took my warning ticket, thanked him profusely, and drove 102 until I crossed the state line. I made the 13-hour trip in just under 11 hours.
It's a long trip. I can't imagine being that many hours in the car going to such an emergent situation. I don't know how you make it.
I just thought that was incredible. I mean, that's what is that? Not that's mercy, I guess, from the officer to just
major
believe him, I guess, and he was probably wearing his.
I was thinking something with Marine.
Yeah.
If he saw that, he was like,
he packed his uniform.
Yeah. Something that, I was thinking there had to be something that noted that he was.
He probably was emotional, and I mean, the officer probably just could tell.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Don't kill anyone, but get up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Yeah.
I wondered if some of these people were like, that was you? If they read this book, they were like, that was me. I did that. I was that woman that you're talking about that's obese sitting in the restaurant or whatever from the previous chapter.
Right.
Or I was that cop that let you go or something.
I know, yeah.
You never know who you're going to
That's true.
affect.
Yep. That's what Mama did end up dying
right
from her. No.
Oh, here's, this whole part where he's on the way back and he spins out because he's hydroplaned or something. And he's like, I'm going to die.
He thought, I'm going to join Mama just a bit sooner than I expected.
Yeah. And then the car just suddenly stops. It is the closest I've ever come to a true supernatural event, and though I'm sure some law of friction can explain what happened, I imagine that Mama had stopped the car from toppling over the side of the mountain. And then that's when he finally, his emotions, then he cries.
Yeah. It's like he hadn't just let go.
But I've had that happen where I was on a curve with rocks on the side, and I started hydroplaning, and it was amazing how you eventually your car just rights itself.
Yeah, it's scariest thing ever.
And then I'm sleeping like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't even drive.
No. Well, I had that next page right after that. Funny, where he had a transformation moment when he was on a mission in Iraq to meet with some locals, and there was a little boy playing soccer, and they were playing soccer and passing out candy, and one very shy boy approached me and held out his hand. When I gave him a small eraser, his face briefly lit up with joy before he ran away to his family, holding his 2-cent prize aloft in triumph. I've never seen such. He said, I don't believe in epiphanies. I don't believe in transformative moments, as transformation is harder than a moment. I've seen too many people, but I think he did, that's something that changed him in that day, seeing that other culture. And I think just going to those other places too. He talked about being in Haiti and how horrible that was, and just his time in those different countries.
Different places, yeah. Well, that reminds me of this thing I saw recently that was talking about, here I am wrapping the gobs of presents I've gotten for my kids, my family, And I think to Laura Ingalls and how Laura got
Exactly.
an orange, and she was so excited about an orange. I mean, that's the same.
Yeah, it is. He said that, I
concept.
harbored resentment at the world. I was mad at my mother and father, mad that I rode the bus to school while other kids caught rides with friends, mad that my clothes didn't come from Abercrombie, mad that my grandfather died, mad that we lived in a small house. But that resentment didn't vanish in an instant, but as I stood and surveyed the mass of children of a war-torn nation, their school without running water, and the overjoyed boy, I began to appreciate how lucky I was. Born in the greatest country on earth!
He was at the lowest point
Mm-hmm.
where he was from, and where the way he lived.
And still wasn't like what these kids did. Yeah. He had every modern convenience, supported by 2 loving hillbillies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he says that somewhere. There's someone always has it harder than you, or something.
It's
like
true.
that.
You do sit there. There's always something to be thankful for. I mean, for sure. When you think about war-torn countries, we don't live that way. So, yeah.
There's also a lot of things in this book that cross over with Allie's book, Toxic Empathy. It is fun when you are reading multiple things kind of together and they cross over, and just because he talks about brain drain.
Yeah.
And she had mentioned that in Toxic Empathy about other countries, how when intelligent folks from other countries may come into the United States or whatever, then they're leaving their country to kind of degrade because they're all, it's the same with his area. People would leave his middle town or whatever to go somewhere else, and then it would just get worse there because
they
didn't have anybody to build it up.
Right. Those places need jobs and things that will last to help the people that live there. That's why so many of those little towns go under, because that stuff is just not as, those little stores and those little places just aren't as needed because people have left. So many people have left that they just can't stay open.
Right. Or they drive into a bigger city to buy it cheaper from somewhere else, a box store.
Exactly.
But I feel like we've made progress with that in the last decade or something, about trying to buy local and just
and small
supporting
businesses.
local businesses.
Yeah. There's definitely still a place for the small businesses.
I don't have anything for a while, so you should go on to your other stuff.
190. Do you have anything before then?
No.
This one was really good. So he talked about the love of country. I couldn't tell you a single thing about, and I can't even know how to pronounce that. Breathitt County's mayor, its health service, blah blah. But I do know this: Bloody Breathitt allegedly earned its name because the county filled its they were filled with World War I draft quota entirely with volunteers.
Yes,
the only county in the United States to do that. He talked to Mama about World War II, and she was so proud of that because her father had been in World War II. We spoke about Rosie the Riveter, Dad's wartime love letters to her mother. Mama always had 2 gods, Jesus Christ and the United States of America. And then this part. He said, I'm the kind of patriot whom people on the something corridor laugh at. I choke up when I hear Lee Greenwood's cheesy anthem, God Bless America. Or proud to be American. Proud to be American. I always do that, yes. It's just, he just has this love. His family had this love of country, which is just, we all need that.
Yeah.
Which is,
And they were Democrats.
Yes. I mean,
and it's interesting to hear him talk about, where he came from, and now he's I'm assuming he's a Republican.
Yeah.
I don't know much about
much more
his
conservative, I think, than he was. But I think because he was working class, Democrat was working class, for a long time. And there was lots of good things that happened, I feel like. But, Obama, and then he talks about that, and then he talks about President Clinton. I mean, he even goes to Reagan, just all the different, clearly he's,
He doesn't write this very biased. You know what I mean? He talks about how upstanding President Obama was, and just all these good qualities, and never says anything bad about him. No. Even though I wondered if he would, considering that he's now on the other side. Yeah. As far as I know, like I said, I don't know. I'd like to know more about where he stands now.
But I never saw him he's come across Trump, like that. Yeah, even when he was debates though and stuff, I don't ever feel like he was I'm just going to keep bashing people, putting them down. He's just, I don't think that's his personality. Yeah.
It seems like he wants to do the right thing. Who cares what side of the aisle you're on? To do the right thing.
To do the right thing.
And
I'm going to go with the person that's doing the right thing. Yeah. And he loves his country, and that's so does Trump. So there you go. That's why they're together.
So.
That was just so good.
I think you had something else before mine. I don't know.
205. Oh, this was just a little interesting tidbit. He talked about going back home, and there was a woman at a gas station or whatever, and he noticed she had a Yale t-shirt on, and he said, "Did you go to Yale?" And she said, "No, but my nephew does. Do you?" And it's like he didn't even know if he felt uncomfortable saying that he did, because, but it's like, well, she has, and she's sitting here in the same town.
Yes.
But it was just like he still felt like that. He couldn't identify that way,
Yeah.
I feel like. Because it was just awkward to him because of where he was from.
It's like that loyalty thing again, except when he's there, he's loyal to his people, and when he was like at Yale, he was just not that he wasn't going to be who he was or where he came from, but it was just it's just kind of keeping his world separate.
Yeah,
or something.
Because it's such a different world. I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah.
I had marked, I don't know why, but on page 220, I have a note that says social capital. And he talks about that several times where it wasn't like he had some lucky event that got him where he was.
No.
It was who he knew, it became sometimes who he knew, or...
I mean, he went to the Marines, and then he thought he did want to go to college, so it was like, okay, but he wasn't ready before he went to the Marines, so that's why he went to the Marines. You know what I mean?
Right.
He needed to develop more knowledge, just develop his brain more.
That was so wise.
It
for a
was so
young
wise.
person.
It was. And so then he knew, this is what I want to do. Now I'm coming out of this, and now they're going to pay for me to do this. Like, it's a good, you served your country, and now they can serve you in this way and help you get through school. And
he only did it for one
a year and 11 months or something. He was at Yale. He's super fast.
Yeah.
He did it super fast because he just didn't want to be there that long.
Well, he only did like one tour, is what I was thinking.
Oh yeah,
like,
in Iraq. That's true.
He wasn't in
the
it
military
for a long time,
4
but
years.
it was, he did his
long
one.
enough to do something, go overseas and everything, and be in Iraq was.
Being the press with the press and all
Yeah.
that stuff over there.
Yeah.
I guess this is the social capital thing comes in when he's at Yale, and it's like his girlfriend was helpful, and then like he had professors that were helpful, and it was like it did make a huge difference who he knew when he was trying to get jobs or thinking about what he was going to do next.
That's true. It does. It's like not what you know always, but who you know. Pastor Brady says that all the time.
Yeah.
I had 226.
Oh man. Before that, I didn't even have this mark, but all the things he learned, like he didn't know.
Yes.
Was like you needed to wear a suit to a job interview, and it shouldn't look sloppy, and what different silverware is, and
yes. Your shoes and belts should match.
Yeah. When he's at the interviews, and he's got a dinner, and there's like a lot of silverware, and he goes to the bathroom and calls, what's her name? Usha.
Yeah. His
And
later to be wife. Yeah.
Right. And she's like, something about it. I watched a movie and they said to, like, or something, and I was thinking, was that Pretty Woman?
I know.
I was thinking outside
salad
in.
fork, dinner fork. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would never know without watching a movie because we just didn't get taught that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, you never needed to because you never were anywhere that you had to do that.
It's true. Unless you grew up in places where that was, with the elite, really wealthy. Yeah.
That finance was an industry that people worked in. It's like, it's just
interesting. Yeah, so I had this part.
Which part of it? Because I have that marked up at the top.
Yeah, so you go ahead with that part.
226. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read it out because I don't know what I wrote it for.
Who was
when
this?
I asked her father about a relative.
Usha,
this is when
Usha's
she's
parents. Yeah.
at the Thanksgiving or something. When I asked her father about a relatively estranged family member, I expected to hear a rant about character flaws. What I heard instead was sympathy and a little sadness, but primarily a life lesson. I still call him regularly and check up on him. You can't just cast aside family members because they seem uninterested in you. You've got to make the effort because they're family. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have people that we don't talk to a lot in our family, but it's just like every once in a while you just check in.
Yeah. You do still like, you know they're there and you still care. It's just...
And you'd be there if something happened and they needed you.
Right.
And they know, I would think they would know that.
Yeah. I would hope they would reach out because they would know that you were there. Yeah. Regardless. Later on there, it talks about he went to a counselor trying to talk to some stranger about his feelings, but it made him feel uncomfortable. But he talked about how the counselor said him and his sister's life had, ACE, adverse childhood experiences, which was like being sworn at, insulted, or humiliated, being pushed, grabbed, or having something thrown at you, feeling that your family didn't support each other, having parents who were separated or divorced, living with an alcoholic or drug user, living with someone who's depressed or attempted suicide, and watching a loved one be physically abused. Happens in every community.
Was there a statistic about how many among the working class? Well, over half had at least one.
Mm-hmm.
Why about 40% had multiple ACEs.
4 in every 10 working class people had faced multiple instances of childhood trauma. For the non-working class, the number was 29%. Yeah.
Oh, and he asked his family, and like his aunt scores a 7.
Mm-hmm.
He and his sister 6. And
Oh,
Dan and Usha, the people that were like the most normal, that they thought were odd because they were, or not normal. What did he say? Families that seemed nice to the point of oddity, each scored 0. The weird people were the ones who hadn't faced any childhood trauma. The weird people.
That's really sad that that's the weird people nowadays, but that's the way the world is. It's scary.
And all the stuff they struggle with, if you have any of those, just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. We are constantly ready to fight or flee because there is constant exposure to the bear. Whether that bear is an alcoholic dad or an unhinged mom, we become hardwired for conflict, and that wiring remains even when there's no more conflict to be had. It's that fight or flight, that adrenaline all the time, like you're always up to here.
Yes.
Because there's always going to be a threat.
You're constantly, exactly.
I mean, physically for your body, that is just
not healthy.
Not healthy. And then
you
your
grow up
brain
with
too.
that. Yeah. Then you take that into every relationship with you. You take it when you get married. You take it when you get married. You take it with your. Yeah, it never goes away unless you deal with it.
There's a dog nose. Look at that dog nose.
He's so tall. He's like right there.
237 is my next
237
line.
No, you're fine. Yeah, keep going.
I don't know what it was. Let's see. Oh, I think it's just he and Usha are married. They built a home. They live there with their dogs. I was upwardly mobile. I had made it. I had achieved the American dream.
Crazy.
Outside your control. What did I write that for?
He's talking about policies, though, like government policies. I feel like a lot in here. Government grants. He talks about how he had grants, government subsidized low interest student loans.
Well, and he talked about how he went to Yale for like nothing compared to other people just because I feel like he was basically saying, don't sell yourself short, or don't count higher education out because
it's
of
too
money.
Expensive, right?
Because sometimes you can go to other places for so much less than you could go to even your state school or something.
Yeah, which is interesting. I would never have thought that. Yeah.
And I thought it was also interesting about Yale. I didn't know that it was considered more relaxed than the others.
And like smaller class sizes, it sounded like, or just more intimate setting.
Wasn't competitive.
Yeah, I never would have thought that. So it's interesting.
Oh, but basically all I know about Yale is from Gilmore Girls, so that's not really saying very much.
I don't think I know anyone that actually went there, so I don't know.
I don't know why I wrote outside your control. Outside, I don't know. Don't know. It was about that same stuff, but don't know why I wrote that. I only have one more place left marked. I don't.
Is this in the conclusion?
Yeah, I think so. We need to create a space for the JDs and Brians of the world to have a chance. I don't know what the answer is precisely, but I know it starts when we stop blaming Obama or Bush or faceless companies and ask ourselves what we can do to make things better.
Yes, I agree with him. You need to stop just blaming everything and just move forward and figure out what to make it better. It's not getting you anywhere blaming people. That's the same thing we tell our kids. Like, don't keep blaming them. Take ownership for what you did and let's just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not getting you anywhere.
Well, that's another thing that reminds me of Allie's, the toxic empathy is she says, it's essentially like we need to stop making other people responsible for taking care of people and do that ourselves.
Yeah. Step up where you can in your place, where we can step up in our state, in our church, in our local community, yeah.
that really the church was put there to help. I mean, I'm studying Acts right now, and it's like the apostles are just they want to teach the word, so they appoint deacons to go out and help because there's been problems with getting the widows their things that they should have, their provisions, and it's they pooled everything and they did it voluntarily, so it wasn't like
no one told you to made you give
your money. It wasn't forced.
It
was we're gonna.
This
and
is
it's so much better to do that. It's so much better to give out of the kindness of your heart than to be taxed, and then for them to decide what they're going to do with the money. Like,
true.
I don't know.
True. Never thought about it in tax purpose.
I mean, we give our taxes, and then the taxes pay for these programs that are supposed to help that unfortunately the less fortunate, and it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. But I think in the end, it was just interesting to see about him talk more about government and policies, and then you're like, okay, this is kind of like leading to today.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm just so interested to see where he stands on policies now, because he doesn't he talks about it, but he doesn't like the quote I just read. He doesn't say, I don't know what the exact answer is precisely. It's just because some of the things that could be done, that people think could be done to help, actually don't.
Help or aren't realistic or something. I feel like he would know in his community what could be done. Like government can't help everything, so there's other ways that we are going to have to help people like that.
There was that thing about payday loans where didn't quite understand, but it was like he was against further changing the payday loan thing. It was confusing to me. It was like he was for there still being payday loans.
Yeah, which is crazy
because he had a situation where he was like waiting to get paid that day to pay his rent check that day, and then he forgot to get his paycheck, and he didn't want to have more fees, so it was the interest in getting the payday loan was better than the fees he would have accrued for not paying his rent on time. But
if you think about it like that and you're knowledgeable enough to think like that, then that's okay. But when you're a person that just goes in there and uses it, then you get even worse trouble, and then everybody else has to clean it up. Yeah. That's part of the problem with all that stuff. But there's always going to be that.
Fortunate to have someone that you could get a loan from, but he wasn't he was too proud probably to ask his sister or someone else.
Yeah, or maybe they just didn't have that. Yeah, who knows? That's probably true. Yeah.
So overall, what was your how many stars would you give this?
I'd give it a 5. Yeah, just because it was so relatable and just so interesting, and I mean, just someone telling their story. I don't know how you can you can't really criticize because it's their story, not yours. Yeah.
I'd put 5 too. And readability, of course, it was. I mean, I read this essentially in 2 days.
Yeah, you were fast, but you could go fast because it wasn't. Yeah, it was like you're reading. It was just interesting. You just kind of wanted to keep going, and the way he wrote was just good. Yeah. So that's right.
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I think especially since now that he's such in the light now, I think people should read just to understand him better, because we don't have this on all the people that we put in office. It would be interesting to hear their stories, just to know what they come from and what they could represent for us.
Yeah, and just like I said at the beginning, his humility, you just feel like he's a real person, and so that's really nice to
he is totally.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
That's good.
Yeah. Now we're gonna watch the movie, so see how it's played out that way.
It's more like you were saying at the beginning. It's like you expected it to be more, maybe like a movie would.
Yeah, I guess just because when you know it comes from a movie, you're thinking, okay, it's gonna be written that way. But I didn't mind, so it'll be interesting to see how it's converted that way. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. I like Amy Adams, so.
Yeah, it'll be good.
And what did we say, Glenn Close?
I think she, is Mama probably.
It's just, it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
It's going to be really good.
Yeah. Definitely read the book and then watch the movie if you haven't already done that. So.
I think
that'll be more interesting.
And make better sense.
More insight into each character, because we got a lot of insight into each, their lives.
And that's the hard thing with movies, is you don't always know what a person's feeling or thinking. I mean, for example, Harry Potter. In the book, you know all of what Harry's thinking all the time. And then in the movies, you don't really know what's going through his head as much.
Yeah.
So that's one thing
the books
that's different.
are so important. Yeah.
So
All the more reason to read.
This was a little bit longer than the last few videos, but there was
There's
so
a lot
much
to
in
it.
there that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
until next time, keep on reading, raising, and praising. See ya.